the border of this plate has two distinct types of chips going on. There's the one section like this with the large positive image leaves, and then there's the ones in between that are going to have kind of a fan shape set of ridges. And you can see I'm going around the border doing all the big leaf section first, and I'm doing that for two reasons. The first is to do the same type of cut time after time, so I can kind of get in a groove and be consistent with it, learn anything that might happen during one cut, keep that with me, and update as I go. If I were to do different types of chips as I go, then I might kind of forget something that happened to me in one pass and have to relearn it the next time. So by doing it straight away this way, then I can make sure that they're all as consistent as possible. The other reason is because these intermediate sections have ridges which are going to be more fragile, and by doing those last, it minimizes the chances of some unintentional damage being done to those. And once I'm done doing all these leaves, I'll go ahead and carve out the vein embellishments on those. And I'm doing these all in the same order of cuts. For the first few of this section, I tried some different orders, and I found that doing it in this order seemed to work out the best for me. So I'm just doing it the same way through for the rest of them. I usually do all of my patterns printed out on the computer so that they're precise, nice and even. I know exactly what I'm going to get. For this border though, with the scallop shape, sometimes they're not all exactly the same, and it's kind of a free-flowing, less precise sort of design here. I ended up writing this out, drawing it by hand, just to make sure that it all worked well for the particular part of the wood that it was on, rather than trying to prescribe it ahead of time. And for this one, I drew an X as a reminder for myself that when I was doing the same opposite chip that runs the same relative to the grain, I had a little bit of running ahead as I cut this part here. The grain is going this direction. It kind of ripped the grain. So I left a little note for myself on this one that as I carve this last part here, I'm going to have to be careful and do a little bit differently there so I don't get that tearing along the grain. And that's all that X is. So what I'm going to do here is cut off some of this excess wood to provide less resistance so that as the knife goes around, it'll be able to move the wood out of the way a bit easier and provide less force that'll cause it to rip. I think I'm also going to come this way. I'm going to do it in 2 cuts. I'll do this one this way to go with the grain. And then I'll come back and finish that chip the other direction. And that looks a lot nicer inside than what happened to me in the other one. I was able to clean it up a little bit, but it's not quite as good as I want, or had to kind of cut off a little bit of the leaf that I would have preferred to keep there. Having a bit of a hard time here keeping an eye on the pencil lines. I drew them at the beginning of carving, so I've been handling it. They're faded, and with the lighting that I've got here, they don't show up as well as the printed ink did. So I'm trying to make sure I carve out the right spots here. Last one. And these cuts coming out that way are a little bit of a challenge since I don't have any wood out there to rest my hand against. So it's kind of makeshift, using either the table or just whatever I can do to stabilize that cut so I don't get some big gouge or cut myself. Just wrestling here with kind of one of those differences in hand drawing it. This leaf is a little bit wider of a gap between those two than the other ones, so making that adjustment here as I carve.